Hey there, folks. Welcome to part 8, my refight of Brandywine, using GMT's Great Battles of the American Revolution. And great game, having a lot of fun. And take a look at the battlefield here, where we left off. You can see the current army morale situation and momentum held by the British. Last episode, we finished the Patriots' half of turn 5. They were the initiative player. Now it's time for the British. They go second. And this is what it looks like. So far, as far as army morale is concerned, it's pretty much even so far. However, the British, during their turn, have the opportunity to rise that army morale by getting rid of some of these disrupted units, well, removing the disruption anyway. And that's done through rallying. Their army morale will go up. So there is that. There's no reinforcements for the British this turn, as you can see to the far left. Nothing on in this turn, but the House force will begin to arrive in turn 6. That's the next turn. It's mostly dragoons and German Jaegers and light troops that'll be coming on board. Turn 7, the bulk of his force will arrive, and that's all at point D along that road where Sterling is heading. Not going to do much with my movement in this turn for the British, really. I want to stick to my battle plan. It's very tempting to get some forces here to engage Maxwell, his exposed flank, really. But I'm going to try to withhold the temptation from doing that. I really want to get some of these guns in position. This is out of position right here. I want to try and rally these 2 units, as well as this unit here, which can be of better use in the combat. Of course, even if they rally, they won't be able to get up here this turn quickly. I think their maximum move when they're disrupted is 1 hex. So that's the max. So they're not going to get up into the fighting this turn. They will be able to rally, though. And continue with the artillery. Well, they don't fire this turn. What am I thinking? Yeah, the only unit engaged here is this 1 unit. So I want to get him back forward into position to fight and hold this line. I really want to capture this high ground and deny those breastworks. You can barely see them. Let me try and zoom in for you guys. You can see the breastworks here. I want to try and capture them, deny the Americans the use of that hex, as breastworks are very useful. And we want to take that. I want to take that high ground. Now, unfortunately, I originally planned to take this position much sooner than this, at least a turn or 2 earlier than I currently, where I'm positioned currently. I had planned to take that high ground quicker than this. It's taken a little bit longer. The Patriots have come across the Brandywine. It's looking grim. Going to take a little longer, I should say. I don't think it's grim. We'll handle these Patriots here, I think. We'll just anticipate the arrival of Howe. That's really what we're going to do. So let's jump into movement, do my rallies. I'll show you what happened with that. Then I'll talk a little bit about the defensive fire options for the Patriot artillery, and then rifle and close combats. So let's see how far we get here. All right, so finish the rallies and the movements for the British. And one thing you'll discover here is these dragoons. They are no longer marked with a cavalry withdrawal marker, which are removed during that player's rally phase. Unfortunately, only 1 of these units managed to rally, and that was this one, the 5th Regiment. The 10th is still disrupted. He rolled a 1, and even with the leadership bonus and his own unit morale, he was not able to score greater than a 4. I think his score was a 4. Looking over here, it's a little bit interesting. You can see this unit. I think the regimental commander decided to get a little crazy here. He moved through the woods, and he's now basically going to fight a combat with this unit, which is disrupted. So yeah, this will be an interesting little probe here as we send some troops to investigate the ferry, or the ford, rather. Just as some of my lines moved up my guns, supported by infantry. Not that I'm afraid the Patriots are going to come across and challenge my guns, but I moved them up anyway. So I should be able to get some shooting here. I will be able to see these units over here, so in the next turn, defensive fire, I should be able to fire with them. Unfortunately, the Americans can now fire at me, but it's the price you pay. Over here, on the other hand, unfortunately, I wasn't able to do much. Like I said, I got rid of this unit's disruption. The unit that was here previously moved into this position, back up to the front there with Kniphausen and Fraser's Highlanders. So I do have 2 regiments, as well as batteries of guns, in a position to move up here. Now, there's no defenders in this hex. I'm going to be capturing this artillery, basically, by moving in there. Ferguson's rifles is over here holding his ground. I really didn't do anything over there. There really wasn't a whole lot I did regarding movement. What you see is pretty much what happened, and it doesn't look like much. So we're going to go right into the defensive fire for the Patriots. And let's take a look and see what options they have. Again, the maximum range is 3, so these guns are out of range of everybody. Here, there's some good fire. There's also some fire here. They could fire over the heads of these infantry, which are below them. These guys are on a upslope, and this target is an upslope target, 3 hexes away. So there is going to be some counter battery fire here. This guy could fire here if you wanted. I might combine my strength to attack 1 enemy battery. For this one, for instance. So it'll be a strength 1 and a strength 2, 3. Targeting either that artillery or the unit that's in there as well. So I'll think about that. Doesn't have to be the enemy artillery to shoot at. And there's also targets here. Again, they're upslope. And these guys are also upslope. So these are legit targets to each other. And, of course, the artillery batteries down here, if you remember. They'll be eligible to fire it. Not sure at what, but they are there at the bottom of the slopes. I basically want to move into here and take those guns. Yeah, that's it. Rifle fire. There'll be some rifle fire here. They're adjacent. Ferguson will be taking on these guys, but we'll get into that when we get into that part of the turn. So let's resolve this artillery fire for the Patriots. See if they can do some damage to this battle line that's forming up on this ridge. All right, so we resolved the defensive artillery fire for the Patriots. Basically, none of them were effective. They took shots all across the board here, including one I didn't really see initially, but it's here. Proctor's battery. He does actually have a battery. Of course he has a battery. So yeah, I took a shot with them with strength 2 against this unit that is currently in woods. And yeah, it was ineffective. Took a few shots here and so on and so forth. Not effective at all. And over here, also fired with this battery, of course, and they fired on Ferguson's, the rifles there that were in wide open on their flank. And unfortunately, it was ineffective as well. Just imagine. Point blank fire, too. But then I went to the rifle fire. The only rifle fire involved is right here with Ferguson's and these 2 rifle-armed units. Ferguson had an advantage, as he always does. He gets an additional +1 just for being, well, Ferguson. And what happened here? I believe the Americans' morale was dropped, so they had a -1 AM. So Ferguson was effective with his fire. He shot at this unit here, the Pennsylvania State Rifle, and got a -1 AM to the Patriot Army morale. And no other results. Nobody else caused any casualties or anything like that. So, yes, the Patriot morale dropped 1. And, of course, that's what it looks like right now. They are back down to 15, teetering on the fatigued row of Army morale, which is not good. If they do drop down there, unit morales of all units are -1. That's important. In addition, the initiative no longer gets the +1 when it's rolled for. Like, both armies get a +1 as long as they're high morale. Once they drop into the fatigue zone, they are no longer benefiting from the initiative bonus. And in addition, their unit morales are -1. So, for instance, if you look at these dragoons here, they have a +1. That number in the middle here, let me see if that'll focus. There it is, this number right here, what says +1. That's where the morale is for the unit. if they were fatigued, this +1 would be brought down to 0. It would no longer have that, basically suffering a -1. So yeah. So next up after that is going to be the close combat. This will be a quick one. And let's take a look here and see where I'm going to put these combats. Really not a whole lot to decide here. It's basically obviously going to be here against that disrupted unit. These units are going to be able to advance into this hex here and capture those guns. And Ferguson's doesn't have to fight because he's rifle armed. It's an option to engage in close combat, so he doesn't have to. Again, on the British players, they're considered the attackers because they're the active side. So I wouldn't have to attack with him. But I would here, and I would here. What else is in this stack? Okay, the Royal Welsh Fusiliers and the Queen's Rangers are both in this hex. So technically, they have to attack. They have to fight against these guys. It's actually a good spot to do a diversion. There's an open flank shared between these two stacks right here. Well, let's see. I'll think about that. But this guy will have to attack. He doesn't have to. And these guys will want to move into here. Somebody has to attack here to advance into there and take those guns. And that's about it. And we'll see if this little probe action here is successful. So let me resolve that and we'll finish off the British turn. Turn 5 for the Brits. All right, so here we go. This is the completion of the British turn, really. Just finished the combats. Let's see if I could cover this. This combat right here, if you remember, Queen's Rangers and this unit were up here. He's now disrupted. I had a miserable time of it attacking green. I didn't use anything special, like what is it called? This diversion. It was basically just this one hex. These two units were attacking green. And that was not a good choice. He had a considerably strong force here. I believe it's 6. No rifles in there. And it was a straight-up fight. But green, being an officer, he had a full deck of cards to choose from. And yeah, so this didn't turn out too well for the Brits. This unit ended up being disrupted and retreating, which put a negative on the army morale for the British, a -1. This combat here was next, I believe, and it resulted in both stacks becoming pinned, so it's a continuing combat. It's basically the King's Own going against Doyle Light Infantry and the old 11th. So they were holding their ground against the British this turn, and the net result was both units were pinned, and that's unfortunate. And also, I decided Ferguson's wasn't going to engage in any close combat, so we didn't bother with that. There was combat here. These two stacks were attacking this artillery hex. If you remember, there was only the artillery that was in here. There was no combat, basically, when that happens, and the artillery is captured. My lead unit, which in this case was Fraser's, advanced into the hex and finished the job. Kniphausen himself advanced in there with Fraser's. And the 28th is still down here with the guns. Of course, the guns for the attacker could never advance after a combat, so they do have to remain behind. They don't even play a part in a close assault. And yeah, this was the close combats here. And one other combat, if you remember, was up here in the woods. 55th had done a little probing action towards the ford here, the primary ford, against this disrupted unit of light infantry, and they're forced to retreat. So there they are. That was that. Odds did not favor them. They had a strength 2 for the Brits going against a strength 3 of light infantry. So yeah, there was that. That was close combat for the turn. And with that, we ended the British turn 5, which means we're about to get into turn 6. I'm going to roll initiative. And one thing interesting to note, there was no additional momentum gained by either side, and no momentum was used in the combats. But if you look at this, the army morale of the Patriots has dropped into the fatigued zone. I discussed that previously. So there they are. That's not good. The British are at 19 currently, so they went up a little bit from all the things that have been going on. So that is that. And these dragoons, which hex were they in? They were originally up, I think they were here. 1, 2, 3. Is this where they were? I'll have to double check the video. And yeah, I did not move them. I totally forgot. I did take off their cavalry withdrawal thing, so that's okay. When I'm playing solo and I make a mistake like that, I always keep my mistakes. So that's that. All right, folks, that is the end of British turn 5. About to go into turn 6, and you know what that means. Initiative time. So let's get to it. Get our little tray all ready. Whoops. Causing a little havoc here in my ranks. I will fix that. I'm going to have to look back at the video. A friend of mine asked, what is this going on my table here? What am I writing on my map? Now, this is plexiglass that I've got sitting on top of my mat. And among other things, it allows me to use dry erase markers, or wet erase markers, on here. And I do this to remind myself during play, as well as to remind me while I'm making videos. Any modifiers I need to show you guys. So yeah, that's all it is, my friend. Just like that, it's gone. So, that one was for you, OW. So let's get to the initiative for the turn. Now the Patriots are at -1. I believe. No, they're at 0. They don't have any modifier. So they're just going to roll a straight up D10, and the British are going to remain at a +1 bonus. And the British are not going to use any momentum for initiative. So it's a straight up roll, +1 for the British. High roll has initiative in turn 6. And we get a 2 for the Patriots. And a 1 plus a 1 is a 2. All right, before we go any further, I forgot something, and we'll keep these die rolls, however. Normally what happens when you get a tie like this, you just roll again with the same modifiers. But there is something I need to address here, which I almost missed. Game turn 6 initiative, which is exactly what we're doing here. Let's take a look at this. Okay, I just gave that a good read. Basically, the British player has the option, instead of taking a T-stop or a T-break, as actually happened, there's an option here not to do so, not to let the British relax after reaching the battlefield. And you can read about this down in here. Approximately 2 p.m., the British flanking column crested Osborne Hill. They've been on the march for 9 hours. Yikes, imagine that. Covering some 14 miles in chest-deep water. Blah, 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 blah. Historically, General Howe chose this moment to call for a 1-hour halt for tea, so his weary men could rest, eat, shed their gear in preparation for battle. See, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to use this option. Again, everything I'm doing in this scenario is kind of a little bit off the mark when it comes to what actually happened, but hey, that's the point of playing it out as a game, right? The what if. So before the initiative die rolls are made, on game turn 6, which this is, the British player may choose to pay 3 army morale points to automatically have initiative in game turn 6. In addition, if he does do so, paying the 3 army morale points, on game turn 7, the reinforcements receive an extra 2 movement points on game turn 7. So they'll receive some extra movement points to move on. That's pretty potent, and it sounds exactly what I want to do. So basically what's going to happen is I'm going to get the 2 extra movement points for Howe when he arrives in turn 7. His force, his big force down here you can see. In addition, I'm going to gain initiative automatically. So we'll discard these die rolls. It was my full intent to do that. And we're going to gain automatic initiative for the British on turn 6. They will be the first player. And yeah, I have to give up, however, 3 army points, and that's down here. So I'm not afraid of doing this. I We got a quite big advantage here, so let's do that. 1, 2, 3. My army isn't too happy with me. Well, Howe's army is not too happy with me. But I think this is okay. It's a risk I'm willing to take, and I think both sides in this battle are essentially taking a lot of risks, as you can see, and how it's been played so far. So that's it. Turn 6 has arrived. The next video will go into that in detail, and this is what you're going to see happen. British are first. They have a slew of reinforcements which will be arriving, and I'll put them up there now at point D. And here's a look at some of the units. They're basically lights and Jaegers, German light infantry, rifle armed, and dragoons. They're coming on up there at point D. The Americans, when they go, they will be getting some reinforcements as well. As you can see, they come on at point C. I don't know if that's focusing. It should be. Well, anyway, they're going to be coming on here. I'll have to move these guys out of the way. But it's not the Americans' turn. So there's the reinforcements for the British. They are placed, and they will be arriving. And we're going to fan out, basically come off that road and get as far forward as we can from that position. So that's the price I paid, folks. I paid 3 army morale points to do that. There'll be no tea time for the British as they arrive in force on the battlefield. And of course, folks, you know what else that means? It means I can really commit myself to assault over here. Technically, I wasn't going to assault until Howe himself arrives on turn 7, and I'm going to think about this. I have an option here. I could either do it in turn 6, this turn, or I could do it in turn 7. I'll have to think about this. And which one makes sense to me? Which one would Gnifhausen do at this point? And I don't know. We'll see. I have actually just crested this breastwork up here, and I have got a foothold on the high ground, but you know what? Maxwell's still up there too. Actually, he's not. He's below the hill. I didn't see that. Okay. But he does have troops up over here. And we have a pinned combat to fight as well, with light infantry. And what unit is this? The King's Own, which are doing fantastic work in this battle today. So, yeah. So that's a look at the battle, folks. Let's get a little elevation here. And there it is. Really good time. Got to straighten up some of my counters up here. And I will do that after I see the video. So yeah, what do you think, folks? British have initiative. I think the Americans had initiative in the past 2 segments. Turn 4. I think they went last in turn 4, first in turn 5. Yeah, interesting. All right, folks, we're going to see what happens. We're closing in. Howe is about to arrive in force in the next turn. His initial forces are just arriving on the battlefield. A lot of light troops. And we'll see what happens with that. And get into the British turn. And I'll think about this, what I want to do with Gnifhausen, if I want him to push forward immediately or wait a turn for Howe proper. Okay, folks. Hope you enjoyed. Like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. And let me know in the comments what you think. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, always important to me. And as always, folks, hang in there. It's only going to get better. You guys take care.